Earth was a quiet planet, its inhabitants blissfully unaware of the cosmic dramas unfolding beyond their atmosphere. To the vast interstellar empires scattered across the galaxy, humanity was nothing more than an insignificant speck, a primitive species struggling to master basic spaceflight. But beneath the surface of this blue-green world lay secrets older than the stars themselves, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Dr. Alara Voss stood at the edge of the excavation site, her boots sinking slightly into the golden sands of the Sahara Desert. The sun blazed overhead, casting long shadows across the dunes. She adjusted her wide-brimmed hat and squinted through her goggles, scanning the diggers as they carefully unearthed fragments of what appeared to be ancient stone. But something about it felt wrong. "It's not like anything we've seen before," muttered Javier Morales, one of her colleagues, kneeling beside a jagged shard protruding from the sand. His voice carried over the hum of machinery and the occasional gust of wind. "This material, it doesn't match any known composition." Alara crouched next to him, running her fingers lightly over the smooth surface of the fragment. It was warm to the touch, almost alive, and faintly pulsated under her palm. A shiver ran down her spine despite the oppressive heat. "It's reacting to us," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "Like it knows we're here." Her words hung in the air, unspoken questions lingering between them. For weeks now, strange phenomena had been reported worldwide. Electrical storms without clouds, crops growing unnaturally fast, and people claiming vivid dreams of distant galaxies. Governments dismissed these events as anomalies, but Alara couldn't shake the feeling that they were connected to each other, and to whatever lay buried beneath her feet. Several thousand light-years away, aboard the sleek silver hull of the Etherian, Commander Terran Solis reviewed the latest surveillance reports on Earth. Her sharp violet eyes scanned the holographic display projected above her desk, flickering images of human cities and barren wastelands overlaying the data streams. "They're calling it the anomaly," said Lieutenant Zareen, standing rigidly at attention beside her. "Energy spikes detected across multiple continents. Patterns suggest artificial origin, though local scientists remain baffled." Terran leaned back in her chair, tapping a finger against her chin thoughtfully. Humans were supposed to be simple creatures, their technology rudimentary compared to the advanced civilizations of the Galactic Coalition. And yet, there was something unsettling about the reports, something familiar. "Deploy reconnaissance drones," she ordered curtly. "I want visual confirmation of every anomaly within 72 hours. If this turns out to be some kind of primitive uprising, I'll deal with it personally." "Yes, Commander," Zareen replied, saluting crisply before exiting the room, as in do. The doors hissed shut behind her subordinate. Terran allowed herself a rare moment of introspection. Humanity fascinated her, not because of their achievements, which were negligible, but because of their potential. There was a spark in them, a latent energy that reminded her of legends whispered among the stars. Legends of beings so powerful they could reshape reality itself. Beings who had vanished eons ago, leaving only whispers of their existence. Could it be possible? Could those whispers be tied to Earth? Back at the excavation site, night had fallen, and the desert sky stretched endlessly above, studded with countless stars. Alara sat cross-legged near the artifact, staring intently at the glowing symbols etched into its surface. They shifted and shimmered like liquid fire, defying all attempts to decipher them. Around her, the team worked tirelessly, cataloging samples and setting up monitoring equipment. But Alara couldn't tear her gaze away from the artifact. It called to her, a low thrum resonating deep in her chest, syncing with the rhythm of her heartbeat. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Dust swirled around them as the artifact began to emit a brighter, more intense light. Alara scrambled backward instinctively, shielding her eyes as the glow enveloped the entire site. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the light dimmed, revealing a new feature. A circular indentation on the artifact's surface shaped like a handprint. "What the hell was that?" Javier exclaimed, his voice tinged with panic. "I don't know," Alara admitted, though her mind raced with possibilities. Gathering her courage, She reached out and placed her palm against the indentation. The artifact responded instantly, humming louder and projecting a beam of light into the sky. Within seconds, a holographic image materialized above them. A towering humanoid figure clad in flowing robes, surrounded by swirling constellations. "This message is for those who remember," the figure intoned, its voice echoing with authority and wisdom. "We are the elders, creators of worlds and guardians of balance. Long ago we chose to retreat, sealing our power within the heart of this planet. When the time comes, you will awaken, and you will remember who you are." The hologram paused, and the figure's piercing gaze seemed to lock directly onto Ilara. "Beware, for the universe underestimated us, and they will underestimate you. Use your gifts wisely or suffer the consequences." With that, the projection dissolved, leaving the team stunned and speechless. Ilara's breath came in shallow gasps as realization dawned on her. Whatever this artifact was, it wasn't just a relic of Earth's past. It was a key to humanity's future. Meanwhile, Cale Arden sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, poring over dusty manuscripts and crumbling scrolls. He had spent years researching Earth's forgotten histories, chasing leads that most scholars dismissed as myth. Tonight, however, he wasn't reading. He was dreaming. In his vision, he stood aboard a colossal starship, gazing out at a battlefield stretching across light years. Planets crumbled under the force of unimaginable weapons, and fleets clashed amidst rivers of plasma. At the center of it all stood a man, or what might have once been a man, cloaked in radiant light. His voice thundered through the void, commanding armies and shaping reality itself. Cale woke with a start, his heart pounding. Sweat soaked his pillow and his hands trembled as he reached for the notebook beside his bed. Sketching furiously, he captured every detail of the dream, knowing instinctively that it held meaning far beyond mere imagination. Little did he know, others were experiencing similar visions across continents, cultures, and languages. People were beginning to remember. Fragments of memories surfaced in their minds, snippets of a life lived among the stars. Some embraced these revelations while others recoiled in terror. But one thing was certain: humanity was changing, whether it was ready or not. By morning, news of the artifact's activation had spread like wildfire. Social media buzzed with speculation, conspiracy theories, and doomsday predictions. Governments scrambled to contain the situation, deploying teams to secure the site and silence anyone who spoke too loudly. Yet even as authorities tried to suppress the truth, the awakening continued unabated. Ilara found herself at the center of it all, thrust into a role she never asked for but couldn't ignore. As she stared at the artifact once more, she realized that this discovery wasn't just about uncovering Earth's past. It was about preparing humanity for a future it could scarcely comprehend. Somewhere in the depths of space, Commander Terran, Solus watched the unfolding events with mounting unease. Humanity was awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. As dawn broke over the Sahara excavation site, the air was thick with an eerie stillness. The artifact stood silent now, its glowing symbols dimmed after the holographic message had faded into memory. Dr. Ilara Voss paced restlessly around the perimeter, her mind racing faster than her feet. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental, something that could change everything humanity thought it knew about itself. But time was running out. News of the artifact's activation had reached far beyond Earth, carried by invisible waves of data intercepted by alien surveillance systems. Across the galaxy, whispers spread among the stars like wildfire. Humanity, once dismissed as primitive and irrelevant, was suddenly a subject of intense scrutiny and fear. Awakening memories, Cale Arden hadn't slept properly since his vision aboard the starship. Every night brought new dreams, vivid and fragmented, each one pulling him closer to a truth he wasn't sure he wanted to face. In these visions he saw himself, not as Cale, the historian, but as someone else entirely. A leader, a warrior, one of them, the elders. He sat hunched over his desk, surrounded by stacks of ancient texts and half-finished sketches of celestial maps etched into his notebook. His hands trembled as he wrote down another detail from his latest dream, a phrase spoken in a language older than time. Eternity bends to those who shape it. What did it mean? And why did it feel so personal? His musings were interrupted by a knock at the door. Startled, Cale glanced up to see Dr. Ilara Voss standing there, her expression tense but resolute. "We need your help," she said without preamble. "Something's happening. People are remembering things they shouldn't." Cale nodded, slowly, unsurprised. He'd been tracking reports online, stories of ordinary people waking up with inexplicable knowledge of star charts, quantum physics, and even combat tactics. Some claimed to remember entire lifetimes lived among the stars. Others spoke of hearing voices in their heads, urging them to seek out others like themselves. "They're fragments," Cale said quietly, gesturing for Ilara to sit. "Pieces of our true history breaking through. Whatever that artifact is, it's unlocking memories buried deep within us." Ilara frowned, leaning forward. "You think we're not who we believe we are?" "I don't think," Cale corrected, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "I know. We were more than this, Ilara. Once upon a time we ruled the galaxy. Alien distrust. Grows light years away, aboard the Etherian, Commander. Terran Solus reviewed the latest intelligence reports with mounting unease. Reconnaissance drones dispatched to Earth had captured footage of strange phenomena occurring worldwide. Electrical grids flickering erratically, crops growing unnaturally fast, and humans exhibiting abilities that defied explanation. Most alarming were the accounts of individuals lifting objects with their minds, generating energy shields, and communicating telepathically. "This isn't natural evolution," Lieutenant Zareen remarked, hovering beside Terran as they studied the holographic projections. "It's too sudden, too coordinated." Terran clenched her jaw, her sharp violet eyes narrowing. "It's the artifact. Whatever it is, it's triggering something in them, awakening dormant traits." Zareen hesitated before speaking again. "Commander, if what we suspect is true, then humanity isn't just primitive. They're descendants of the Elders." The room fell silent. The name hung heavy in the air, laden with reverence and dread. The Elders were figures of legend, beings said to possess godlike powers. They had vanished eons ago, leaving behind only myths and ruins scattered across the cosmos. If humanity truly carried their bloodline, we can't let them regain their full potential, Zareen continued grimly. If they do, they'll destabilize the entire galaxy. Terran turned to face her subordinate, her expression unreadable. "And if we destroy them before they awaken fully, we risk igniting a war with whatever remains of the Elders' legacy. No empire would dare take that gamble." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Terran made her decision. "Prepare the fleet. We move into orbit around Earth within 72 hours. Monitor all activity closely. If any human demonstrates advanced capabilities, neutralize them immediately." "Yes, Commander," Zareen replied, saluting sharply before departing. As the doors slid shut behind her, Terran stared out the viewport at the distant blue dot that was Earth. Her thoughts churned with doubt. Was humanity truly a threat, or an opportunity? And what role would she play in shaping their destiny? The awakening spreads back on Earth. The awakening accelerated. Across continents, ordinary people began experiencing transformations that defied logic. Farmers found they could manipulate weather patterns. Scientists unlocked breakthroughs in quantum mechanics overnight. Children drew perfect representations of constellations they'd never seen, naming stars no human telescope had ever detected. In Tokyo, a young girl named Aiko levitated above her bed, her wide eyes filled with wonder and terror. In New York City, a street musician named Marcus discovered he could heal injuries with a touch. In rural Brazil, a farmer named Mateo raised his hand and caused crops to grow inches in seconds. These incidents weren't isolated. They were part of a global phenomenon. As more humans awakened, they began seeking each other out, drawn together by an instinctive pull. Small groups formed in secret, sharing their experiences and piecing together fragments of their shared past. Dr. Ilara Voss and Cale Arden became central figures in this emerging network. Together, they traveled to meet others like them, gathering information and documenting cases of awakened abilities. Each encounter revealed new insights about the Elder Civilization, a society built on harmony, wisdom, and unimaginable power. But it also uncovered darker truths, tales of arrogance, hubris, and a cataclysmic war that nearly destroyed the universe. It's why they retreated, Cale explained during one such meeting, addressing a group of newly awakened individuals in a secluded cabin deep in the Rockies. They realized their power was too great, too dangerous, so they sealed it away, hoping future generations would learn humility before reclaiming their birthright. But we're not ready, Ilara interjected, her tone urgent. Look at what's happening already. Governments are panicking, people are scared. If we don't control this awakening, it'll tear us apart. Cale met her gaze, his expression grim. Which is exactly why we have to guide them. Teach them how to use their gifts responsibly. Otherwise, the aliens will destroy us before we even get the chance. Alien intervention escalates high above Earth. The alien fleet took position, its sleek ships casting shadows over cities below. Commander Terran Solis watched the monitors intently, observing as more humans demonstrated extraordinary abilities. Reports poured in from reconnaissance teams. A man in Moscow stopping bullets mid-air, a woman in Sydney summoning storms with a gesture, a child in Cairo bending light to render himself invisible. The evidence was undeniable. Humanity was evolving at an unprecedented rate, and it terrified her superiors. The Council has issued an ultimatum, Lieutenant Zareen informed Terran, her voice tight with tension. If the awakening continues unchecked, they authorize immediate military intervention, full-scale invasion if necessary. Terran's heart sank. Invasion meant millions, if not billions, of lives lost. Yet doing nothing carried its own risks. If humanity regained their full elder powers, they could pose a threat not only to the Galactic Coalition, but to the very fabric of existence. Give me 24 hours, Terran said finally, her voice firm. Let me assess the situation, firsthand. There may be another way. Serene hesitated, then nodded. Understood, Commander. A fragile alliance. Forms on Earth. Tensions reached a boiling point. Governments declared states of emergency, deploying troops to contain outbreaks of chaos caused by the awakening. Fearful citizens turned against their gifted neighbors, sparking riots and violence. It seemed inevitable that humanity would collapse under the weight of its own transformation. But amidst the turmoil, hope began to emerge. Ilara and Cale worked tirelessly to unite the awakened, teaching them to harness their abilities while emphasizing the importance of restraint. Slowly but surely, trust grew between strangers bound by a shared destiny. Networks expanded, connecting awakened individuals across borders and cultures. Meanwhile, Commander Terran Solis defied orders, sneaking onto Earth disguised as a diplomat. Her arrival went unnoticed until she sought out Dr. Ilara Voss directly, revealing her identity and intentions. You don't understand what you're dealing with, Terran warned during their clandestine meeting in an abandoned warehouse. My people won't hesitate to annihilate you if they think you're a threat. You need to prove otherwise. Ilara stared at the alien commander, weighing her options. Finally, she extended a hand. Then help us. Together, maybe we can prevent this from escalating. Terran hesitated, then took the offered hand. For better or worse, humanity's fate and perhaps the galaxy's now rested in their uneasy alliance. The skies above Earth burned with unnatural light as alien fleets descended from orbit, their sleek ships slicing through the atmosphere like blades. Cities trembled beneath the shadow of colossal vessels, their hulls gleaming with weapon systems, designed to annihilate entire civilizations. The message was clear: surrender or face extinction. Humanity stood at a crossroads, its newfound powers awakening too quickly for comfort. Some embraced their abilities, using them to protect their families and communities. Others recoiled in fear, unable or unwilling to accept the truth of their origins. Chaos reigned across the planet as governments collapsed under the weight of internal strife and external threats. At the heart of this storm were Dr. Ilara Voss Kale Arden and Commander Terran Solis, an unlikely trio united by necessity. Together, they had formed a fragile alliance, pooling their knowledge and resources to prepare humanity for the coming invasion. But time was not on their side. Preparations for war in hidden bunkers and underground sanctuaries awakened humans trained under the guidance of Alara and Kale. These individuals, once ordinary citizens, now wielded powers that defied physics: telekinesis, energy manipulation, teleportation, and more. Each day brought new breakthroughs and new challenges as they struggled to control their burgeoning abilities. Kyle, haunted by visions of his past life as one of the elders, pushed himself harder than anyone else. He spent hours meditating, delving deeper into the memories buried within him. With every revelation he grew stronger, but also more conflicted. The arrogance of the elders' ancient civilization weighed heavily on his conscience. Could humanity avoid repeating the mistakes of their ancestors? Ilara balanced her role as a scientist and leader, guiding the awakened while maintaining communication with Terran. The alien commander had become a reluctant ally, feeding crucial intelligence about the coalition's plans. Despite their differences, mutual respect began to form between them, a fragile bond forged in the crucible of impending war. "Your people are remarkable," Terran admitted during one of their covert meetings. She stood beside Alara in a dimly lit command center, watching holographic projections of troop movements and fleet positions. "But are they ready? My superiors won't hesitate to destroy you if they think you're a threat." "We have no choice but to be ready," Alara replied firmly. Her gaze hardened as she turned to face Terran. "If we don't fight back, they'll wipe us out anyway. At least this way we stand a chance." Terran nodded grimly. "Then let's hope your faith in humanity isn't misplaced." The invasion begins. The first wave of attacks struck without warning. Alien ships unleashed devastating barrages of plasma fire, reducing cities to rubble and scattering survivors into chaos. Skyscrapers crumbled like sandcastles, and rivers of molten metal flowed through streets once bustling with life. Humanity's defenses were overwhelmed almost instantly, their primitive technology no match for the Coalition's advanced weaponry. But then something unexpected happened. As the aliens pressed their advantage, pockets of resistance emerged. Awakened humans stepped forward, their latent elder powers flaring to life in response to the crisis. In Tokyo, Aiko raised her hands, creating shimmering barriers of pure energy that deflected incoming projectiles. In New York City, Marcus healed wounded civilians while generating shockwaves that sent enemy drones spiraling out of control. In rural Brazil, Mateo summoned walls of vegetation to shield entire villages from destruction. Word spread rapidly among the awakened. They coordinated their efforts, forming networks of resistance that spanned continents. Telepaths communicated silently across vast distances, sharing strategies and rallying reinforcements. Energy manipulators channeled their power into offensive strikes, tearing apart alien ships with bursts of raw cosmic force. And at the forefront of it all stood Kale, his eyes blazing with golden light as he tapped into the full extent of his elder heritage. He moved like a phantom, appearing and disappearing in flashes of light, dismantling enemy forces with precision and purpose. His presence inspired others to push beyond their limits, unlocking abilities they never thought possible. Commander Solis's betrayal. Amidst the chaos, Commander Terran Solis faced her own reckoning. Orders came down from the Coalition leadership. Deploy the Etherean's primary weapon, capable of obliterating entire regions of Earth's surface. It was a last resort, intended to crush humanity's uprising before it could gain momentum. But Terran hesitated. She watched the monitors as awakened humans fought valiantly against impossible odds. Their determination reminded her of stories she'd heard as a child. Tales of heroes who rose against tyranny, sacrificing everything for the greater good. For the first time, she questioned whether her loyalty truly belonged to the Coalition or to the ideals they claimed to uphold. When the order came to fire, Terran made her decision. She disabled the weapon systems and broadcast a message to the fleet declaring her defection. "Humanity deserves a chance," she stated, her voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside her. "If you want to destroy them, you'll have to go through me first." Her actions sparked mutiny among some members of the coalition fleet, who sympathized with her stance. Others branded her a traitor and vowed to eliminate her alongside humanity. Regardless, Terran's rebellion bought precious time for Earth's defenders to regroup and counterattack. The turning tide with Terran's aid, humanity launched a desperate counteroffensive. Cities became fortresses, their inhabitants using elder powers to reinforce structures and repel invaders. Telekinetics hurled debris at enemy ships, while energy manipulators created vortexes that sucked entire squadrons into oblivion. Even those without awakened abilities contributed, using makeshift tools and sheer ingenuity to support the resistance. The battle raged for days, neither side willing to yield. Casualties mounted on both fronts, but humanity's resolve only grew stronger. They fought not just for survival, but for the right to determine their own destiny. At the climax of the conflict, Kale confronted Lieutenant Zareen aboard a crippled alien cruiser. The two clashed in a fierce duel, their movements blurring as they exchanged blows fueled by anger and desperation. Zareen fought with cold efficiency, her blades slicing through the air with lethal precision. But Kale drew upon centuries of forgotten combat training, countering her attacks with ease. Finally, he disarmed her, pinning her to the ground with a surge of telekinetic force. "It doesn't have to end like this," he said, his voice tinged with sorrow. "You can still choose peace." Zareen glared up at him, hatred burning in her eyes. Then, slowly, her expression softened. Perhaps she saw the truth in his words. Or perhaps she simply realized the futility of continuing the fight. Either way, she lowered her weapon and surrendered. A costly victory. By the time the dust settled, Earth bore scars that would take generations to heal. Millions had perished, and countless cities lay in ruins. Yet humanity had emerged victorious, proving to the galaxy, and to themselves, that they were far more than the primitive species they had been underestimated to be. In the aftermath, Kyle accessed a suppressed memory that shook him to his core. He remembered the catastrophic war that had driven the Elders to retreat, the arrogance and greed that had nearly destroyed the universe. Tears streamed down his face as he realized the true cost of power and the responsibility that came with wielding it. "We can't make the same mistakes," he whispered to Alara as they stood together amidst the wreckage. "We have to do better." Alara nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We will." Together, above them, Commander Terran Solis gazed down at the battered planet, her allegiance shifting irrevocably. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Humanity's awakening had changed the course of galactic history forever. The war had ended, but its echoes lingered across the galaxy like ripples in a cosmic pond. Earth stood battered and scarred, its cities reduced to ruins, its people grieving unimaginable losses. Yet amidst the devastation, there was an undeniable sense of triumph, a collective realization that humanity had risen from the ashes not as victims, but as survivors. And more than that, they had reclaimed their place among the stars. Dr. Alara Voss walked through what remained of her hometown, her boots crunching against the rubble-strewn streets. The air smelled faintly of smoke and ozone, remnants of battles fought weeks ago. Buildings leaned precariously, some still smoldering despite the efforts of awakened humans who used their powers to quell fires and stabilize structures. Children played cautiously amid the wreckage, their laughter mingling with the hum of reconstruction efforts powered by elder abilities. Alara paused beside a makeshift memorial, a pile of stones stacked carefully into a pyramid, adorned with flowers and handwritten notes. Someone had scrawled the words "We remember" across a piece of scrap metal propped at its base. She knelt down, tracing her fingers over one of the notes. It read, "To those who showed us we are more than we thought." Her eyes welled with tears, though she didn't let them fall. There would be time for mourning later. For now, there was work to do. A new beginning. In the aftermath of the invasion, humanity faced a choice: how to move forward. Some advocated for vengeance, calling for retaliatory strikes against the alien coalition. Others urged caution, fearing that embracing their elder powers too fully might lead them down the same destructive path their ancestors had walked. Kyle Arden found himself torn between these perspectives. He had unlocked memories of the elders' ancient glory, their mastery of creation and destruction, but also their hubris which had nearly annihilated the universe. As he stood before a council of awakened leaders gathered in a cavernous underground chamber, his voice carried both conviction and restraint. "We cannot deny who we are," Kyle began, addressing the assembly, "but neither can we forget where our power comes from or what it cost. Our ancestors chose retreat because they understood the dangers of unchecked ambition. If we wish to avoid repeating their mistakes, we must wield our gifts wisely." His words resonated deeply. Over the following days, a consensus emerged. Humanity would rebuild itself not as conquerors but as stewards of peace and knowledge. They would reach out to other civilizations, offering guidance rather than domination. Above all, they would prioritize humility, a lesson learned the hard way. Commander Terran Solis, now living openly among humans after defecting from her fleet, became instrumental in bridging the gap between Earth and the galactic community. Her testimony about humanity's resilience and potential helped sway key factions within the coalition, preventing further hostilities. Though many aliens remained wary, others saw promise in this newly awakened species. "They're different," Terran told a skeptical council of alien ambassadors during a tense diplomatic summit aboard the Etherian. "Yes, they possess immense power, but they've shown restraint. They've chosen cooperation over conquest. Isn't that worth supporting?" Her impassioned plea earned grudging respect and tentative alliances. Slowly but surely, humanity began to carve out a new role for itself in the cosmos. Rebuilding and reflection back on Earth. The process of rebuilding took shape under the leadership of awakened individuals like Alara and Kyle. Cities rose anew, their architecture infused with elder-inspired designs that shimmered with energy and light. Agriculture flourished thanks to Mateo's ability to accelerate growth, ensuring no one went hungry. Telepaths established global networks of communication, fostering unprecedented levels of unity and understanding. Yet even as progress surged forward, moments of reflection reminded humanity of the weight of their legacy. Memorials were erected, worldwide, not just to honor the fallen, but to remind future generations of the fragility of peace. Schools incorporated lessons on the elders' history, emphasizing both their achievements and their failures. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Alara joined Kale atop a hill overlooking the reconstructed city of Cairo. Below them, lights twinkled like constellations reborn, illuminating streets bustling with life. Energy shields glimmered faintly around critical infrastructure, a testament to humanity's newfound ingenuity. "You know," Alara said softly, breaking the silence, "I used to think finding that artifact was the beginning of something. Now I realize it was also the end of something, the illusion that we were alone." Kyle nodded, his gaze distant. "And maybe that's the point. We're not meant to be alone. Not anymore. The universe underestimated us, but now we have to show them what it means to truly belong." Alara smiled faintly, leaning her head against his shoulder. "Do you think we're ready?" He hesitated before answering. "No one is ever really ready for something like this. But if we keep learning, if we stay humble, we'll find our way." A beacon of hope months passed, and humanity's presence in the galaxy grew stronger. Diplomatic envoys traveled to distant star systems, forging partnerships based on mutual respect and shared goals. Scientists collaborated with alien counterparts, exchanging knowledge and technology. Artists and philosophers explored the intersection of human creativity and elder wisdom, producing works that inspired awe and introspection. Among these endeavors, one project stood out: the construction of a massive space station orbiting Earth, designed to serve as a hub for interstellar cooperation. Named Eldoria, it symbolized humanity's commitment to shaping a better future, not just for themselves, but for all sentient beings. On the day of Eldoria's inauguration, representatives from dozens of species gathered aboard the station. Speeches were given, treaties signed, and cultural exchanges celebrated. When it came time for humanity to address the assembly, Kyle stepped forward, his golden eyes glowing faintly with latent power. "For centuries we believed ourselves insignificant," he began, his voice resonant and clear. "We looked, to the stars and saw only distance. But now we know the truth. We are part of something greater, something eternal. Let this moment mark the beginning of a new era, an era defined not by fear or arrogance, but by hope and collaboration." Applause erupted throughout the chamber, echoing across galaxies. Humanity had taken its first steps toward becoming a beacon of peace and knowledge, a living reminder that even those underestimated could shape the destiny of the universe. Closing. Seen far beyond Earth's solar system, whispers of the Elder's return continued to spread. On distant planets, scholars debated whether humanity's awakening signaled a renaissance or a reckoning. In the depths of uncharted space, ancient ruins stirred faintly, as if responding to the resurgence of their creator's bloodline. Commander Terran Solis stood at a viewport aboard Eldoria, gazing out at the infinite expanse of stars. Beside her, Alara approached quietly, joining her in silent contemplation. "What happens next?" Terran asked finally, her tone tinged with wonder. Alara smiled softly. "Whatever we make of it." Together they watched as the universe unfolded before them, a canvas waiting to be painted with the stories of those who dared to dream,